Here is everything that you need to know about the 64-bit server transfer process coming to LOTRO this quarter. At the end of 2024, Lord of the Rings Online announced that they are going to open up some new servers, some 64-bit servers, to all players in the live worlds. We are getting an NA server called Glamdring, an EU server called Orcrist. Then there will also be an NA server for role-playing, or possibly role-playing encouraged. They haven't specified. It sounds more like a role-play encouraged situation, but that NA server will be called Peregrine, and then the role-play encouraged, we'll say, server for EU is called Meriadoc. These servers are going to be new and will hopefully have less lag with the 64-bit integration, while all previous servers are still at only 32-bit servers, except for Angmar and Mordor, which are the new legendary servers that came out last summer. Lots of information. Pretty much 64-bit servers are coming for everybody and should hopefully have less lag. Now, the process is really kind of complicated though, because this isn't technically a server consolidation, but this is a process where you can transfer your characters over to the new 64-bit servers whenever they end up going live. However, you are not obligated to. You are not required to at this given time. However, I would be honestly surprised if they don't force everyone over to the 64-bit servers by the end of 2025, in all honesty, but that is my opinion. Take it as you will. I've gotten so many questions about the server transfer process, and that can include, what am I going to do with my characters, inventory, bank space, shared storage, if we're essentially colliding everything over into one server, essentially because we have like 5 different servers just on NA alone. How are we going to fit all of that into 1 or 2 different servers going forward? And I understand everyone's concerns, especially with kinship houses, your regular houses, renames, and all of that. It's so understandable. All I'm going to say on that is that I absolutely have just as much clue as the next person, but I will say that we have gone through a previous server transfer before, and the process seems relatively similar, but I'm sure things obviously are going to change. There were a lot of servers taken out during that server transfer, not nearly as many as this time going forward, but I would just say we got through it that time. We will get through it this time. Do not stress. Honestly, there's so much up in the air still that things could change, and SSG could, you know, change their minds on a few things. But so far, this is what we have so far from SSG about the specifics of the transfer process going forward. All right, so this statement is from SSG, or from Cordovan, more likely, the community manager for Standing Stone Games, or Lord of the Rings Online in this case. But they came out with their own, I guess, essentially like a checklist or FAQ of what is yet to come. So pretty much, as they state here right now, there still is no date released for the 64-bit servers. My best guess on when we can expect the 64-bit servers to go up would be sometime in February. But it is really interesting because the one thing that does not transfer over to the 64-bit servers are any sort of progress made on the reward track. So my best guess is that they're going to do it sometime after the season 12 of this reward track has ended, which is somewhere, I think, between like February 12th or so. I think that's when it ends. I could be mistaken. But the new one for sure, season 13 of the reward track, goes up February 19th. So my best guess is that it will probably be sometime before February 19th. But that is a huge guess. I don't know. They will announce the date whenever they feel. And that is all I can say, best guess sort of scenario. But something I forgot to mention during my intro was that, yes, the 2 new servers, the NA servers will be based in the US. Apparently the servers will be in Las Vegas, which is different, more towards Pacific. And right now we're on Eastern for the 32-bit servers, that is mostly. And then also the EU servers will definitely be based in the EU, which Evernight, as an example, is not currently based in EU. It's actually a US server, so there was a lot of ping there. So hopefully with the 64-bit servers we'll have less lag, but of course having an EU server that is based in the EU will hopefully, you know, give you a better ping too. SSG has stated and will continue to state that they intend to keep their existing 32-bit game worlds to open in the future, or stay open in the future, but we hope and expect many players will want to transfer to these new worlds. As Sev was kind of explaining in the live stream when they initially announced that 64-bit servers were coming to all, he pretty much mentioned that The 32-bit servers will probably not be supported, like the programming won't be supported, so that's kind of why they want to make the switch over to 64-bit. That's part of it. So I really encourage anyone who's thinking about staying on the 32-bit server during the transfer process, I just encourage you to go to the 64-bit. You're probably going to have to transfer to 64-bit at some point in time, and it's just kind of nice to get it sooner rather than later when you have more access to names, you have access to a kinship house or even a regular house that you may want, and not something that you have to settle with. So that's just my advice to anybody who's thinking about staying, but it's totally your option. That is just something I want to put out there. SSG is announcing a free transfer plan to allow players on 32-bit North American worlds to transfer to new 64-bit North American worlds, and players on the 32-bit EU worlds to transfer to the new 34-bit European worlds. So essentially the same thing applies, and this has always been the case for most worlds in Lord of the Rings Online, with the exception of Treebeard, apparently. Anyone who's on an NA server has to transfer to another NA server. It's just always been that way during the transfer process. And same thing, if you're on an EU server, you have to transfer over to another EU. You can't do NA and EU. Unfortunately, the process just doesn't allow that. So we will have free transfers from 32-bit to 64-bit, but you have to remain within your region or area. So here are the details and all the explanation as to what the process will look like. VIP subscribers will be able to log into the game world to access the character creation screen on their destination world and secure up to 3 names per 64-bit world of their choice. So if you're a VIP player, you get 3 names that you get to secure on the start date of whenever this happens. VIPs will not be able to log into the game world to play or be able to transfer their existing characters, but they can create characters with their desired names and then later rename their transfer characters to their preferred name after deleting their placeholder character. So essentially on day 1, VIPs will have the option to essentially have a placeholder name. So you can go into this new world, you can type in whatever name you want, and then just keep the character. You won't be able to play on it, you won't really be able to do anything, but it is a placeholder so that you can hold your given name that you want. But you only get 3 characters to do this, so pick wisely. And then on the next day, or whenever this date will be announced, free transfers from 32-bit to 64-bit worlds will be available to all players. The new game worlds themselves will remain closed, but the transfer tool will be enabled to allow for transfers to these worlds. So everybody will be able to transfer over. Doesn't matter if you're VIP, free play, you totally have the option to transfer over when you get to that point. Unfortunately though, it sounds like we will not be able to play our characters once we transfer them. So keep that in mind. If you plan on transferring a character, you probably won't be able to play them. So I would say leave a character or 2 around on a different world and just play them for a little bit. But if, you know, they have a name that you don't really care for as much, or, you know, could care less if it gets taken, then I would just keep them on whatever world you're playing on. So that way you can at least play the game if you feel like it. And then on the next day, hopefully, or whenever this date will be announced, because we don't have a date yet, the new game world opens. Free transfers from 32-bit to 64-bit worlds will continue through August 31st, 2025. So this is news because we get some free transfers until August. Free transfers between the new 64-bit worlds will operate on a rotating weekly basis and continue through a date that is yet to be announced. And then on the final yet to be announced date, SSG is working to allow for free transfers from many previously closed game worlds to the new 64-bit worlds. We'll have more information on timing for the closed world transfers in the future. They also refer to them as dark worlds a lot through their live streams. We will likely open transfers to a few game worlds at a time over a period of time, and leave transfers from these worlds open until a later announced date. After this final transfer period, these previously closed worlds will permanently be closed, and no further character transfers will be possible. So these are the 64-bit servers that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. They are labeled there, and I also have another video I can recommend to you that will be up above, which pretty much goes over the announcement of the new worlds and all the info that we have up to this point about like the hardware aspect of it. Anyway, it seems another crazy thing that is still being tossed in the air apparently, but is completely different on the official wording and writing and postings made on the website. Angmar and Mordor are 64-bit worlds. They are only available for VIP, but they're legendary worlds, which basically means they roll out the expansions every 4 to 5 months, it seems, at this point in time. Initially, Angmar was supposed to be closed when the legendary worlds do their thing, get to the, the peak, the highest cap in the expansion. Well, Angmar was supposed to roll until, we'll say, level 160, because I'm sure these game worlds will go on till the new max level is increased. So the plan was initially that Mordor would be staying, possibly considering how many people would be on it, but it was a possibility that it would stay. Angmar, however, they stated from the get-go that they essentially were going to close it no matter what once the time period came, just like all legendary worlds. But according to some other things that are being posted by Cordovan on the forums, it sounds like now they're planning to keep Angmar. So that is news to me, but that also could be something that they're throwing up in the air yet. So possibly Angmar could stay after we do all this 64-bit transferring process. I'm not too sure, but that is some different information being mentioned potentially from the forums. Could be miscommunication, I do not know, but I just want to make that clear. Angmar could be staying, which would definitely change my perspective on Angmar quite a bit. So I just want to make it clear for anybody else that is a possibility. They also go on to mention the role-playing servers. The role-playing designated worlds are meant to give guidance to fellow role-players as they consider their destination world. We do not enforce roleplay appropriate naming, nor require players on the server to roleplay. Anyone can play on these worlds, similar to how things are now on Landrval and Lorelin. Well, that's a little confusing, because Lorelin is a roleplay server, Landrval is a roleplay encouraged server. I understand that they mark these as roleplay, but I really think they should be roleplay encouraged. If we're not going to, obviously enforce roleplaying appropriate names and such, which they never did on Lorelin or Landrval, but in Lorelin, it was more of almost like an underlying rule that that's where more RPers would go, because it was labeled as a role-playing server. Landrval has been noted as a role-playing encouraged, or an RE server. Essentially, it sounds like Peregrine and Meridoc are role-play encouraged servers, but they're labeling them under role-playing, even though they're not even following the role-playing rules. So that is something interesting as well. I would just go ahead and assume they're going to be more role-play encouraged roles. So I'm not sure why they did RP on Meridoc and Peregrine when it sounds like it's more RE, but what do I know? Angmar and Mordor are special Veil of the Nine worlds where transfers to the world are not enabled and players start fresh with new characters. So this is a good little tidbit as well. Angmar and Mordor, you cannot transfer your characters off of them, which is why I've been so gun-ho about not going on Angmar and Mordor, especially as a new player, because essentially when those worlds start dying, because all legendary servers do that, and around Rohan's expansion, which we'll pretty much start having within the next year or so, you can't transfer off of them. All right, let's get into the specifics. What you need to know about the character transfers. So I'm sure that you've seen this, but once you go in the launcher of the game, there's the play button, and then obviously there's the transfer button. So SSG is saying, after entering in your username and password, you'll see the transfer button on the launcher. Press it to select which character from which game world you want to transfer from, which world you want to transfer to, and then decide whether or not you are including your shared items to your transfer. I don't know why you want it, but pretty much how it works on the transfer process is that it'll show you and be like, what world are you selecting from? So the first one is, where are you selecting your characters from? Then on the second window, it will show you what characters you can choose from to transfer. And then on the third window, it'll show you what worlds you can transfer to. And then on the fourth, it'll tell you this is how many points it's going to cost you. It's going to be free for everybody, so don't worry about that. But that's how it normally would show you, and it just shows you the confirmation. But under the character transfer section on the second window, you will also have a button up at the top that says shared items. You have to check that, as well as whatever character you want to transfer over. But if you don't check it, it won't bring stuff from your shared over. So just make sure that you are checking that box. It's up at the top. It'll say shared items, and then you select whatever characters you want to transfer when the time comes. You cannot be logged into a character while attempting to do a transfer. Shared item transfers remain available even if all characters have moved off of a world. This is another question that's come up quite often too. If you have more items in shared storage, escrow, shared housing storage, or other form of storage then you have available to interact with due to account limits, everything will transfer over and the relevant storage will be in a withdrawal only state until you get below your available limit. So essentially this means that if I have 100 shared storage capped on Gladden, for instance, and I also have 100 shared storage on Crick Hollow that's also capped, then when we go to transfer, if I'm going from Gladden over to Glamdring and then Crick Hollow over to Glamdring, well, that's going to cause an issue because I have essentially like 2 servers of shared storage completely filled up to the brim. Well, what happens? Well, what has happened previously and what they're going to do this time around as well, you just essentially will have everything put in to the shared storage on Glamdring. Every single thing from Gladden and Crick Hollow will transfer over, but on Glamdring what's going to happen is you'll have 200 out of 100. So it'll be double capped past, but you cannot put anything into the shared storage on Glamdring because obviously you are doubled what your cap is, and you can only remove things, and only until you remove things to like the 99 slot, then you can obviously like put one more thing in until you're capped out again at 100. Everything coming from your servers will transfer, but unfortunately you just won't really have any space, and you're just going to have to keep withdrawing things on the new server until you get it down, or you pay some more to essentially upgrade your shared storage. They didn't mention wardrobe here, but that's essentially what happened last time during the server transfer to my account, because I never owned a single thing of wardrobe space, but I got a VIP one day, put 10 slots in, and then when I lost my VIP, like everything that was in the wardrobe didn't go away. It was still there, it was just capped, and I could only keep whatever was in there or remove them. Something else that they have also announced more recently is in preparation for the introduction of the new 64-bit worlds, they're going to increase the base number of character slots available to VIP and premium accounts. VIPs with active subscriptions will have access to 12 free player character slots, increased from 7, and then the premium accounts will have an access to 10 free player character slots, which was increased from 5. So previously, premium accounts used to have 5 character slots, and now they have 10, so it got doubled. And previously VIP used to have 7 character slots, and then it got posted to 12. Character slots for free accounts and or monster player characters are unchanged, unfortunately. So the big question, what about names? This is a little goofy, but this is how it worked before, and it's gonna keep working like this. If another character exists on your destination game world with the same name as your character's name will be appended with a -1 at the end of it. If a character -1 already exists, your name will be appended with -2, -3, yada yada. So essentially, if say you have the name Will, you go to transfer onto this new server, obviously someone's already probably taken the name Will, then you will essentially have a -1 at the end. So it pretty much says that someone has your same name, but you're distinguished because you have a -1. It looks a little weird, I won't lie, but... And then same thing as if there's multiple Wills transferring, well then there's going to be a Will-5 and a Will-17, and vice versa. In that case, your character's name was taken and you're given a numeric suffix. Once inside of the game world, you can change your name one time for free by typing the command /change name, insert your new name, which is how it went previously too with the server consolidation time period. Yeah, you will get a free name change, which is relatively nice. I know it's not the same, but that's something that you can do right now, is start thinking about some iterations for your current characters' names if they are, I guess, more common than most others. Most storage and wallet items will overflow if needed, which means you will not be able to add additional items to that form of storage until the total is reduced below your limit. However, the following items will not overflow, which is super important: embers, motes, and figments and accommodations. Make sure you are spending those things so quick right now. I guarantee you, my figments are nearly capped out, and I was so like in sadness because I was like, crap, I need to spend them right now, and I feel like I'm gonna forget, and then I'm gonna go on Gladden, and Gladden I've got like a frick ton, and then I'm gonna transfer. Yeah, anyway, rant over, but make sure you're spending them. That's my best advice. Just spend them right now, because I would much rather have the issue essentially of like not getting to the cap, because the cap for like motes, figments, and also the embers is 10,000. And if you are over on them, like, they're really precious for, you know, getting really cool stuff in the game. So it would suck, because essentially you'd be losing out on stuff you've already earned. We will be temporarily offering free transfers between the new US 64-bit servers and between the new EU 64-bit servers on a weekly rotating basis until date. My guess is until probably August or September. But that's a huge guess. Hopefully it'll be updated by the time you watch this. This will allow players who accidentally find themselves on the wrong world or who end up wanting to instead join a group on a different world the opportunity to transfer their characters to their final destination world. Each week Wednesday until the next Wednesday downtime, we will alternate between the ability to transfer between the roleplay and regular worlds. So week 1, free transfers from Peregrine to Glamdring and from Meriadoc to Orcrist, and then week 2, free transfers from Glamdring to Peregrine and from Orcrist to Meriadoc. So it sounds like it's an every other week sort of thing. So just make sure that when you do the transfer, it's during the week that they'll be transferring. Yeah, I want to make that clear as well, is that you do not have to commit to these servers if you feel like you've ever made a wrong decision. Like, I know a lot of people who are over here trying to say, I need to go on Peregrine, and I'm not going to Peregrine, I'm going to be on Glamdring, which I want to make super clear for everybody. I'm going over there for a few different reasons, but for whatever reason, if I make the wrong decision, I can always transfer over to Peregrine and vice versa. Now, here's where things get a little bit more complicated in my opinion, but even so, it's not that bad. What do I need to know about kinship transfers if I am a kin leader? You should not disband your kinship. Don't disband your kinship. Don't make that mistake. Kinship leaders must abandon or sell their kinship houses before they can transfer. Kinship leaders should sell their premium kinship houses in order to have 100% of the writ cost of their kinship house returned to them. The writs will be returned to you as an item in your inventory. Kinship leaders should abandon their classic kinship houses prior to character transfer. To abandon or sell your kinship house, open your character panel by pressing C and select house. Then you can, select the house you wish to abandon or sell, which is like all right over here. The only difference between abandoning and selling is that players abandon their classic houses and do not get their gold purchase price returned. You will not get it returned. Please note that kinship leaders abandoning or selling their kinship house prior to the transfer is different from normal classic or premium player housing transfers, where you should not abandon or sell your home prior to transferring your characters. That's a lot of complicated stuff, but pretty much kinship leaders need to abandon or sell their kinship houses before they transfer. And then these are the graphics that they show you on how to go about it, and you all have to type in your street name, which can be a lot of work, it seems, but this is how you will get your writs back for your premium house. When transferring a character who is a kinship leader, the game will disband the kinship on the former world and reform the kinship on the new world, complete with all historical data. Players who are in that kinship will automatically be added to the kinship on the new world if they decide to follow their kinship leader on the transfer. So this is where you should be kind of communicating with your kin leaders and essentially just figuring out where they're going to go, where they plan to move their kinship. And if you want to stay with them, then you will have to transfer on to the new server or world that they are planning to go on. Note that the kinship leader should be the first character in the kinship to log into the game world following transfer. If a kinship member logs in prior to the kinship leader, the member will be removed from the kinship since a new kinship is not yet established on the game world. Y'all, kinship leaders, y'all gotta be on it the night that we go down on this, okay? Please coordinate with your kinship leaders on the timing of this transfer. If you are removed from your kinship leader will simply need to re-invite you. Bound items in the kinship house will return to their owners. Unbound items will be placed into the kinship leader's personal housing storage or escrow, depending on the item. Any remaining prepaid credit or unlocked storage in the kinship house will be automatically granted when purchasing a new kin house on the destination world. This is also something important to note. We know that not everyone will be able to get the same house in the same location that they have on their former world, but we will be working to offer as many neighborhoods as possible for the launch of the new worlds. I think that we're getting a lot of different new neighborhoods coming to all of the housing areas, and I hope that that's the case. But that's sort of the big thing about transferring now instead of later, is that yes, if you transfer as soon as possible, when obviously when the date is announced, if you transfer on that date, then yes, you should have a good shot of being able to reclaim whatever kinship house, classic house, or whatever sort of house you had, and also keep your character name. but it's all a first come first serve basis, so you have to just make sure you're on it if you are able to. As a kin member, you do not need to leave your kinship. You'll automatically be rejoined to the kin after you transfer, as long as the kinship leader has logged into the destination game world before your character. Any of the character bound items that you have placed into the kinship house will be returned to you when the kinship is abandoned, classic housing, or sold as the premium housing goes. Any unbound items will be in the escrow or personal housing storage of the kinship leader after they've purchased a new kinship house. What do I need to know about existing personal housing and transfers? The belongings and history of the ownership of your house will go with your character to your destination world. When you log into the world, you will have a mail that contains an attachment of currency equal to the purchase cost of the house. Well, that's quite nice. All of your items will be in escrow housing storage, and character bound items will be returned to their appropriate characters. Make sure you go and find an escrow person. Like, obviously there's one in the Keladim housing, there's one in Delving and that housing, so they are definitely around. You will need to purchase a new premium house with the writs that you receive. Housing storage upgrades persist with your new home. When you have the new housing chest, players should consider putting hooked items into character storage and removing anything from the small premium per house storage chest prior to transfer. If they plan to move only a few characters and they wish to leave certain decorations behind for characters that are remaining on the existing servers. If you're moving all your homeowners, remember to transfer the account bound storage from your former server to get your decorations available on the new world. Players should also remove items from shared housing that are bound to characters that they do not intend to transfer, or remove items bound to a character that they do not intend to transfer if they do not intend to transfer their shared item storage. Pretty much, if you plan on keeping one character on the 32-bit server and you have items of theirs that were in the kinship house, well, you're not going to get that item on the new server, essentially. And make sure you grab it now, because it sounds like it might get a little on a kerfuffle, we'll say. If your kin leader, who just abandoned the kinship house, essentially ends up on the new server and then they're, placing stuff back, it doesn't sound like you'll be able to get your item back. It might just go kapooey. For non-premium houses, storage capacity will be preserved and applied to the house you decide to purchase on your destination world. When you purchase your new home, it'll start fresh with the upkeep, ownership time, and grace period time, just like any other newly purchased or non-premium home. Yeah, a lot of people were kind of bummed because, even for me, for example, I paid so much in upkeep and I don't know if we'll get that back still, and that's sort of unclear yet, but you'll have to pay up on your upkeep on these new houses that are non-premium. Recommended transfer order is kinship leaders, homeowners, shared items, and then other characters. In-game mail is not transferred. Make sure you detach all your mail items you wish to keep prior to transfer. Any items or messages lost during the transfer process will not be restored by customer service. Any auctions underway will be lost, so complete your auctions and get your stuff prior to transferring. Your progress on the legendary reward track will not come with you on the destination world. Make sure you claim your rewards. Your friends list and ignore list will not be preserved. Take a screenshot of your friends list if you haven't already, and just start sending some friend requests when they're up on the new game world. Note about monster player characters will be able to transfer for free to these new 64-bit servers, and player versus monster player gameplay will be enabled on these new worlds. Let's go, because they are not enabled on Angmar or Mordor. And then here is the FAQ section. They're going over what 64-bit servers are, the server options, which we've been over. The role-playing servers are not restricted to, they don't have any restrictions on character names. Well, EU servers have language-specific chat channels, which was mentioned in the live stream as well. They're working to create separate French and German world channels for Orcris and Meriadoc. We also have a new LOTRO Discord featuring French and German communities, in addition to French and German language support on our website and forums. Click here to join the official Discord. Well, it's not out yet, so... Will the 32-bit game worlds be closing? At this time, we do not intend to close our 32-bit worlds. Okay. Eventually, we would like players to experience the game on our 64-bit worlds, but as long as the populations of our 32-bit world remain healthy, we intend to keep these worlds open. No, the new game worlds are not legendary. Will player versus monster player gameplay be available on these new worlds? Yes. Will the legendary worlds Veil of the Nine mechanic be available on these new worlds? No, the ring wraith battles and other aspects of the Veil of the Nine are limited to Angmar and Mordor, But honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I would not be surprised if they try to integrate some of the Veil of the Nine into some of these servers in some capacity in like an optional format. That's where I feel like they could go, but that's a huge guess. Can I transfer characters between regions? No. Will characters transfer onto this new 64-bit servers be free? Yes, until, looks like till August 31st is the date. This is the timeline, which we have pretty much gone over. This all seems pretty much like what we've gone over. It is possible to select all characters on a server during transfer, so you don't have to do one at a time. That's quite nice. What account information on a former game world will transfer to my destination game world? This includes destiny points, shared storage, bank, housing storage with an asterisk, wardrobe, and shared currency. What was the asterisk about? Housing storage underwent significant changes in 2014, and the characters that have not logged in since 2014 may lose their housing storage items connected to that character. Logging into the relevant character prior to transferring will resolve this issue. So make sure, guys, if you have any characters from sounds like that you haven't been on since at least 2014, make sure you go on them. Can I transfer for free from Treebeard to another game world? Yes, free transfers from Treebeard will be available through August 31st. If we decide to end the Treebeard experience after that point in time, we will offer free transfers again from the game world. I'm sorry, there's like 30 people on Treebeard. You're offering free transfers over. Why wouldn't you just end Treebeard then? So, like, they're definitely gonna end. Like, I don't, unless there's like a massive surge of people that go over to Treebeard and like the next like few months, they're ending Treebeard like as soon as they can. Like, it's the worst, slowest pop server right now. And keep in mind that is a legendary server that goes on a 6-month period. Just saying. Yeah, pretty much it seems like all sorts of things we've already covered. What if somebody already buys my housing space? The housing neighborhoods will be expanded as needed, but we cannot guarantee players will get their same exact address. Housing items are returned and housing rents are refunded as a part of the transfer process. Pretty much you are COL. Crap out of luck. Is there a limit of the amount of items that will be put in escrow housing storage when I transfers? No, no limit. Is there a time limit to move my items from escrow? No, there is not a time limit for escrow housing, so it can essentially be there forever. This is a good question. On the closed game world servers, what are the closed game worlds people call the dark worlds? Which I've never really heard anyone call the dark worlds except for the devs. The dark worlds are LOTRO servers that were previously closed in 2015. Transfers from these worlds were available through 2018, at which time transfers became no longer available. These are all the closed worlds. You know, it's actually interesting. I'm really excited to see this because I have characters I did not transfer from Firefoot that are still around. So I'm shocked that they like said all of these previous servers, they still have like at least the characters on them. I was like, what? I might go find my little first ever lore master I ever created on Firefoot. When will the dark worlds be open for transfer? They don't have a date yet, and they're opening in this order. Oh, okay, so this is news. This is the order that they're gonna go through, I guess, when it comes down to the orders of which these worlds will be open, so you can transfer them over onto the new servers if you so choose. So if you're on Winfola, well, you're going to be waiting a wee bit. And just to kind of leave you on one more thing to think about while the server process is about to begin, is I would highly recommend right now that you all spend time clearing out some of your characters on certain servers that you don't play, because I do have so many characters. I have like 50 characters spread between like all 5, 6, even 7 servers I'm on in the game. I maybe play like 20% of them if I'm being honest. Like, I don't play that many, but I only have about 25 character slots right now, so it's like I can't move 50 characters when I have a 25 slot limit. So my recommendation, what I've been doing personally and what I recommend for you, is to essentially go through those servers that you don't play on, find out if you have any characters, start deleting them. But what I've been doing is I've just been going through them and essentially like gathering any like coins specifically, like get your free money. I'm essentially going through the list of whatever characters I have on the server, and then I'm essentially breaking it down or consolidating it to one character I plan to keep on that server. Obviously, I play more in Crick Hollow or in Gladden, so I'm keeping it to about like 5 characters or so that I plan to keep on those servers. If if not more. But on the servers that you don't play on, I would just say try to consolidate as many characters as you can and essentially just send money to one character, or send like all the stuff that you want to keep from that server onto one character, and then transfer that character over when the time comes. And then if you don't want to even keep that character, at least transfer them, get the stuff off of them, and then delete them. That's essentially what I've been doing. Like, I had 3 characters on Brandywine, never played them, sent everything over to one character. Now I have 1 character from Brandywine I'm going to send over to Glamdring, and then delete her as soon as I grab the stuff off of her. But obviously you want to keep certain characters, and I would just pretty much say, like, try to put as much stuff on them as possible, so it just makes the whole transferring process a little easier, because you'll at least have, you know, your stuff on it. And even go as far as putting, like, all your housing items onto one character, go as far as putting like all your specific crafting items onto another. Like, essentially I'm saying make a frick ton of bank alts and like organize them as best as you can. But if you don't really do that right now, it's gonna make transferring way worse, and you'll have such a limited amount of characters. So that's my best advice for everyone going forward. But that's pretty much it. I will mention that I will have a Hobbiton vlog coming soon. I did go to New Zealand and visited Hobbiton itself. It was so awesome, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. So it's coming soon, and of course, you better stay weird, you weird weirdos.